Welcome back, Cracked fans, to another edition of the Cracked Interviews podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. We are well aware here at Cracked Racquets that the entirety of the tennis world tuned in right now to the first major of the 2020 season, the Australian Open, entering the home stretch as quarterfinal play gets underway tonight. Look, for that sort of action, we've been talking about it all week long on our mini break podcast, each and every day, recapping the previous day's action, previewing the next day's matches as well. Jamie McDonald, Matt Stokovic, and myself doing that each and every day so that you listeners never fall behind on the action, which it is so easy to do. That being said, look, it's never a bad time for one of these Cracked Interviews podcasts, and that's why we are so glad to bring back in today's guest, a guy who we know very well from our Cracked Racquets coverage of the college tennis world, a guy who had success in the 2019 season, reaching his first ATP 250 level final in New York. He made three Challenger finals as well during the 2019 season and rose to a career high inside the top 100 for the first time in his career. I, of course, am talking about the former UNC Tar Heel Brayden Schnur, who Max Rothman was fortunate enough to talk with right after that New York Open result last year. This time, we were happy to bring him back because after 1 year later, you crack the top 100, have all this success at the Challenger level, make your first ATP final. A lot of wisdom you gain from that sort of experience, so it was really fun to talk to Brayden about his 2019 season, what he's learned now after a couple full years on tour, how the game differs from the upper levels of the college ranks, what he's had to change about his game, his lifestyle, all of these different things personally to become the best professional tennis player he can be, and also why he thinks, after X amount of years, I think 3 now full seasons on the pro, or 2.5 full seasons on the pro tour, why the ATP tour needs a players union, why he thinks it would benefit not just, the lower ranked players, but every player through the strength of an ATP players union. He talks about the efforts Vasek Pospisil, Novak Djokovic have made thus far. So really fun, interesting conversation. We also have some fun at the end. Of course, I run him through my proposed changes for college tennis. Brayden, a guy who knows the ins and outs of the college game as well as anyone. So that was a lot of fun as well. But with that, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Brayden Schnur. Joining us tonight on the Cracked Interviews podcast, you may know him as a former 3-time All-American at the University of North Carolina. He reached a career high of number 2 in the ATP singles rankings last August on the back of his New York Open final appearance, as well as 4 finals at the Challenger level. He sits today at a live ranking of number 118, which feels about right as it's the 1-year anniversary of his appearance in the Newport Beach Challenger final, making his return appearance to the Cracked Interviews podcast. Brayden Schnur, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Of course. So a lot has changed in the past year for you, and let's start there. How was your 2019 season, looking back on it all?
Yeah, I thought obviously 2019 was my best season so far. It was obviously a very positive one, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that I felt like I could have improved on, which is also kind of a positive side or sign looking back at it. I had reached a lot of finals, didn't get any wins, and that's kind of my goal for 2020 is to improve on, not just making the final of events, but winning them. Obviously, the points in the finals make a huge difference, whether you're runner-up or champion. So if I could have captured 1 or 2 titles, I think, I for sure would have ended the year inside the top 100 and would have put me in line to start the year a little differently. But again, not complaining at all. I'll take that. Finishing the year just outside the top 100, I'll take that any day. So yeah, it was a great year for me.
For you, you make 4 finals in total, the 3 at the Challenger level, and then that one in New York. I mentioned 37 and 32 overall on the year. That's a lot of matches. I mean, that means you're playing 32 tournaments throughout the season. How did that, after this past year, going into this offseason, preparing for 2020, did you feel it more this year because of all of the traveling you did, the vacillating between the ATP 250 level and the Challenger level, maybe adjusting your schedule along the way? Did you feel any of that wear any more so at the end of last season?
I mean, my body spoke for itself. At Davis Cup, I actually got hurt. So I hurt my back, and I didn't really actually have an off season or a preseason. Sorry, this year, I was completely out for 6 weeks. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Australia. I started playing tennis about 3 days before my trip to Australia, and I didn't have any expectations going there, but definitely my body spoke for myself, and I was tired. Obviously, that's why I got a little hurt. But those 5 6 weeks off that I had in November, December, really gave me a good time to just like refresh my mind. And obviously, it was a long year, so I'm in a really good like clear headspace now, and I feel really refreshed. I haven't taken 5 or 6 weeks off in I couldn't even tell you how long, maybe 4 or 5 years. So with tennis, it's always go, 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 but it felt really good to just take that time away from the court.
So, a couple of things off of that. You mentioned you played about 3 days before your trip to Australia. What is that like for you? And did you feel a pressure to play right away? Would you have preferred to maybe not start that season in Australia, just take that month off?
Yeah, it's a really tough call. It's at the end of the day, my decision was based on that as a kid, and still now, tennis players go to bed dreaming of playing in Grand Slams, and that at the end of the day, that's the decision that I made, is to go to play in Australia, and I felt like I was able to. Obviously, I wasn't physically anywhere near my best, but I felt like I was healthy enough to go out on court and play tennis. So I said, why not go there? And I told my coach, let's go and let's use it as a training block. And whatever happens, happens. But there's no pressure. I'm just gonna take it as we go, and just go out there and compete and just try to see what we can do.
And I think that's the mindset, if you don't mind me saying, that got
For
you
sure.
inside that top 100 in August. Now, you used the word pressure, and again, this isn't meant to be a gotcha question, but there is the idea that you have a lot of points to defend early in the season. You have the Newport Beach Challenger final, that New York Open final. I think it's a Challenger semifinal and 2 Challenger quarterfinals to defend through March. It's just the reality we live in. It's a points-based system, so does that weigh on your mind this early in the season?
Honestly, not too much. You can kind of tell the players that worry about points. Their ranking kind of reflects, and they have drops every year, and they dip up and down. But looking back at how my career has gone so far since I left college, I've been on a slow, steady incline, and I think that's just the way my philosophy that I think about when I'm trying to defend those points is I don't necessarily think about defending week to week. I think about more just every year starting fresh and trying to build, and the points, like almost as if, let's say, you're counting points to get to the Nido finals,
Mm-hmm.
points gained, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm not really trying to focus on what I have to defend this week, or what I don't have to defend 3 weeks from now. I might have a lot of points coming up at the beginning of the season, but I think grass is my best surface, and I have almost no points to defend during the grass season. So, there's ups and downs. And also after New York, I took a good 4 or 5 weeks off. I had a surgery last year, and so there I have a huge gap of 4 or 5 weeks with nothing to defend. So, just as there are weeks where I have to defend, there are also weeks where I can, do well and gain a lot of points.
I'm glad you brought up that gap you took, because I know for you, it must have. I know you've had lingering knee injuries. It's something you mentioned the last time you were on this podcast. But for you to make that ATP final, make that decision to take a full month off, which is something you haven't really done before. Why was that the choice you made in that moment, to take the month of April off and just sort of reset things for your season?
Yeah. So kind of going into transitioning from 2018 to 2019, I finished the 2018 season, I think, with probably around 31 or 32 tournaments. Again, I played a lot of challenger events that year in 2018, and I finished the very last week of the year, which was, I believe, second week of November. And so when I came back to Montreal and kind of sat down to look at the schedule for the first couple months of 2019 with my coach, we had decided that regardless of how I did at the beginning of the year, I was going to use those weeks as a training block. And obviously after New York. I wasn't necessarily supposed to play Delray.
It's a hell of a training block.
Yeah, but because at the end of 2018, I decided to we weren't going to take that long. I only took like 10 days off or something crazy, a really short off season. Or excuse me, I took a longer off season and didn't do a long preseason. I did a 2-week preseason.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to use that as a training block. And so obviously when he said that, I said, listen, I would like to have this surgery on my nose because I couldn't breathe out of one side of my nose. And the doctor's appointments book up really fast. So, I went ahead and booked that appointment in. And, the next time I could get in there, I don't know when the next time I would be able to get in there to do that surgery. So I just kind of winged it. And, looking back on it, is it something I regret? Probably not really, because it helped me a lot physically on court. Looking back on my 2019 season, maybe one or two regrets that I have is maybe not playing Indian Wells in Miami. Obviously, I had missed the Indian Wells sign up because that sign up had come before New York. But I definitely think I should have, when I was hot, taken more chances.
And with your ranking where it's at the start of this year, and I'm sure you enjoy the fact that for the second year in a row you're going to play Max Cressy. You may have another all-college showdown the round after that as well here in Newport Beach this week. But with your ranking being where it is, you're kind of in that in-between zone of you can probably get into ATP 250 qualies if you want to go that route, but you'll certainly be seeded if you go the challenger route, maybe the safer route, some more winnable matches, at least ranking wise. How do you balance, and what's the balance going to be for you in the early parts of this 2020 season between ATP 250 and challenger level events?
Yeah, it's mostly just playing events that I feel comfortable, condition surface wise. I've done a couple trips over to Asia the past couple years. I've slowly come to learn that, playing over there probably aren't the best conditions for my game. So looking at right now where I'm at and the beginning of the season, I thought it was a good idea, obviously, to play the same stretch that I did last year because I played well during these events. And then obviously New York is a 250, but it's not an easy call. I think you just need to go with where you feel you play best and what service suit your game, and that's just what I'm trying to do right now. As far as choosing challenger or tour events.
You are from Canada. During your time at Chapel Hill, you played plenty indoors. In fact, while you were there, you led the team to the helped lead the team to the national indoors title. Something I want to talk about again in a little bit. But is it safe to say indoor hard court is your preferred surface?
Yeah, indoor. It probably is. It's probably up there with grass, I would say. Whether one's better than the other, I don't know. I definitely enjoy I enjoy tennis more on grass. That's probably for me the happiest time of the year, and most enjoyable time of the season. But indoor hard is definitely one that I like. Obviously, there are tournaments that are super slow indoor hard. Like I played Stockholm last year, and that was slower than almost a clay court. So it just depends on how the indoor courts are playing.
You mentioned the grass court there. I know 9-4 on grass in 2018. I think you went 3-6 though last year on the surface. Although a couple of good matches. What is it about the grass that you enjoy so much that you get to move forward recklessly?
Yeah, pretty much. Just moving forward, and I don't know. It's so different, and you just go into the season like that part of the grass season with I think everyone goes in with little to no expectations because just anything can happen out there. And I just love the fact that it's kind of a gamble, and the players that kind of know how to play on it or like to take chances and move forward, big servers have a slight advantage. I feel like that's kind of my game style, so I've kind of always just enjoyed the grass. It's a fun couple weeks where there's no expectations, and obviously Wimbledon that's the highlight of my year every year. So having the opportunity, whether it's main draw or qualies this coming year, just the opportunity to get into the main draw or even start in the main draw is really special.
Yeah, and maybe it's the all-white clothing, the white hat. It accentuates all parts of your serve. So maybe that's the added bonus for you. Yeah, added bonus for you as well. But talking about your game, you seem to sound so comfortable with where you're at. Seem to be much more confident in the things you do well, how to accentuate those with your schedule, all of these different things. I'm curious because it feels like more and more we see, especially those who follow the challenger level closely, these guys at the top of the college tennis ranks making that transition and having success immediately now on the Challenger Tour. As someone who was a 3-time All-American, played one singles for 3 years for a team, won a national indoor title the year after you leave, same core group, makes that NCAA championship. How different is the level from where you were at playing one singles in the ACC to now what you see week in, week out on the Challenger Tour?
Yeah, I think it's very different. It's tough, not gonna lie. Like when I first left college, I wasn't winning many challenger matches, and I was for sure not going deep in challenger events. But then you see guys like Nakashima, who's, I from what I heard, I don't really follow college tennis that closely anymore outside of UNC. But I believe from what I heard is that he didn't have the greatest college year last year. But then he comes out and he's like finaling semifinals almost every challenger he's played in so far. So there are guys that, make the transition really fast. But again, I think it's a lot of game, like personalities and game styles. Once guys find their game style and get used to the travel and the adjustment of being alone a lot more, not having a team, that's when those guys seem to peak.
Last time you were on this podcast, you talked about the improvement in your fitness since you left the college game, and that's obviously a big difference as the higher and higher you go up the ranks in the ATP singles rankings, the fitness levels get better and better. But for you, your big game, I think anyone who watched you in college said, you always had pro weapons. How has been toggling that balance between, emphasizing the serve, the big forehand, plus, the flip side is the physicality of the challenger events, the fact that some of these different game styles may be grinding on a different day as opposed to playing big might be the strategy you need to employ. How have you, kind of balanced between accentuating the things you're best at with working on those skills that maybe you aren't as good at?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty tough. Having all the weapons is kind of like a double-sided sword. At times, you find yourself extremely confident but overplaying, and then there's times where you're not so confident but you can go out there and you can get away with serving well one match and get a win and build from there. But it is tough. It's constant work. I'm lucky enough to have a coach that always pushes me, and he is hard at times, but I believe that he is the right direction for me and my game, and following the footsteps of other players he's coached like Milos and Pospisil, who are similar to my game style. It's definitely not easy working on things, but or trying to improve when you're playing every week. But you do what you can do, and I think the best players in the world, they find a way to make it work.
The first time you saw yourself serve on video, were you like, damn, that's a deep knee bend? Like, it looks nice.
I hate my serve. I struggle watching myself play at times.
I bet that can't be fun.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one or if other players say the same thing, but it's just, I don't know, my technique, and I mean, not from my serve to the forehand, backhand, everything. I don't know. It's weird watching myself play.
All right, well, if you want a secondhand opinion, the forehand, when you step up, it's gorgeous. Just because you look like you're getting all of your body. You're like, yeah, I'm unloading on this one. Be ready. The backhand's gotten prettier. There's no denying that. The backhand slice you're working in, I enjoy it quite a bit. But for you, and this again gets back to the college aspect, you seem so comfortable moving forward. And I'm sure, again, indoor tennis, I'm from Michigan, you're from Canada. When you play indoors, you learn to move forward at the net. Otherwise, you're just playing tennis forever out there. How have you, because as you go through the challenger level, the passing shots get better. All of these different things get better. Having a game that's so predicated on being aggressive, the margins being so thin, it could be one break of serve on a given given day, determining whether you win or lose. How do you maintain your confidence through the ebbs and flows of an aggressive game style?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot of repetition and work and practice, and I'm a big believer in it starts in practice and putting in the hours. It's one of those things that it's a game style where you have to be willing to accept that some days guys are going to beat you and guys are going to come with good shots, and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's life. That's what sports are all about. But again, it's about playing brave and gutsy, and that's kind of the way I like to play tennis. And there are guys that are really solid from the back, and I just know that my game style sometimes it's not good enough to beat them from the back. And so what am I going to do to challenge them or beat them? It's by moving forward, serving big, taking chances, making them feel uncomfortable. Sorry.
No, please never have to apologize to me. Yeah, and I think it's so fun to watch because do you feel under those terms, at least you're dictating the result? It's on your racket, whether you win or lose?
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, a lot of it is making the right decisions and being smart. It sounds easy to just go to the net and whatever happens, happens. But then again, there are times when you probably shouldn't go to the net or missed opportunities where I could have shortened the point a little bit faster and moved forward. But yeah, it's very tricky. But it's about making the right decisions. And like I said, just kind of playing gutsy.
This is a stupid coin of phrase, but I like to call it testosterone tennis. And I think why it's applicable in particular to you is that having watched you in college, and we had the chance to talk to your former head coach, Sam Paul, as part of our College Contender Series this past off season, and I kind of chatted with him about you a little bit to get ready for this. I'm saying this lovingly. You are not one who's afraid to show their emotions on court. In particular, the match that screams out to me. If I could watch you play Ryan Shane at one singles in that national indoor final over and over and over again on loop, I would, because the emotions of that match were just incredible. But it's one thing to have that level of emotion in college. It's another thing when, again, week in, week out, it could be one loss in Shanghai, and then the next week you're in Stockholm playing qualifiers or whatever it may be. For you, is it safe to say you've reined that part of your game in, and how much time have you spent working on the mental aspect of things?
Yeah, I mean, I work a lot on the mental aspect of things, as far as staying calm during matches and making the highs not so high and the lows not so low. But again, I'll be the first one to admit that I was a little bit of a court in college. But, that was me. I was so confident. I was winning a lot of matches. My best friends were my teammates, and I didn't have to worry about winning or lose. I didn't have to worry about winning or losing their friendships just because I was kind of in a court. But at the end of the day, I think pro tennis changes everyone because not only are these guys, the players you're playing against, your competitors and rivals, but they're also your friends because everyone's on the road alone, and it's a long journey, and everyone's trying to do the same thing and reach the same goals. So you can't act that way in pro tennis, and I think I learned that really fast. And I think that's probably the biggest reason what's calmed me down the most is just knowing that, these guys are, as much as they are rivals, they are friends, and that's just the way it is. That's the sport we play. But at the same time, there are guys out there that I know that are still and acting the way they are on court. And I know for a fact that they struggle to find practice partners because I wouldn't want to practice with someone like that. I know what I was in college, and I know how I acted. And now, looking back, I probably wouldn't want to practice with me back then either. But you just can't do it. I feel like you just can't do that on the pro tour anymore.
No, I'm really glad you bring up that aspect of things because this is my last serious question, and then I want to have some fun with you. Talk some fun rule. Yeah, again, a lot of these serious questions, I have like a list of goofball questions, and we just didn't get to them because it's a testament to how candid you are, and we really appreciate that. That's why we always enjoy having you on here at Cracked Racquets. Flattery aside, though, I know you talk about that camaraderie, and as of late, we see so many guys, behind the racket from Noah Rubin is really the epitome of this, but guys like Jared Hiltzik, yourself, Vasek Pospisil, talk about the need for ATP players to come together, in particular, something that's always hovered above this topic, the need or lack, the fact that there is not an ATP players union, and I know that's something you have talked about before in favor of the idea. Can you talk about why you support that idea of an ATP players union, and in particular why you think the buy-in for the players union, it can't just be challengers and futures players, but it's got to be a top-down effort from everyone on the ATP side?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good last big question to ask me. But yeah, I'm very opinionated and I have strong opinions, and sometimes I get caught off guard with my words, but I'll try and say what I can here now about it. And my reasoning behind it is obviously I'm a big believer in change. And, you see other games like NBA and NFL, and these games are evolving and they're always adapting. And as far as, the way these players are getting treated, the quality of life these players are living, yada, yada, yada. And you look at tennis as a whole, and we're having the same conversations in 2020 that we were having 15 years ago. And the conversation is that only 100 players in the world make a living out of tennis. And yes, the prize money's increased, and yes, tournaments have gotten better, and the lifestyle of a challenger player has gotten better, and the prize money's going up slowly, but so is the cost of living, everyday life. And I'm not trying to say that I'm not grateful. I've done okay for myself so far in my career, but I believe that there's a lot more that these Grand Slams are holding out on us, and they're not giving us a big enough piece of the pie, and what we deserve. And I feel like that's the need, that that's kind of what the players deserve, is a bigger chunk of the pie. And people will look at it any way they want to, and people will be negative and say, oh, it's too much money to give players for one match or just an hour or two on court. But people don't realize all the people outside of tennis don't realize all the expenses that we incur from week to week. We pay for our travel, we pay for our coach, we pay for all of our coaches' expenses, we pay for our own expenses. So it's not cheap. And so that's pretty much my biggest argument for why we need a players union. And I think obviously Vasek Pospisil and Novak Djokovic are leading this players union. And we do need names like Djokovic and obviously bigger names to step forward and kind of come and join our cause. But everyone has their own reason for doing their own thing. And I would love to see tennis evolve, and I would love to see 250 guys out there making a living for themselves. It's one thing to put rackets in kids' hands, and that's great and all, but at the end of the day, if those kids don't have a chance at actually making a living at this sport, it's kind of tough, So that's my whole reason for vowing and jumping behind the bandwagon of Djokovic and Pospisil, trying to create a players union to speak on behalf of the players in front of the Grand Slams.
Well, that's the reason I wanted to end with that serious question, Brayden, because I knew you'd nail the answer. And if you don't mind me saying, I completely agree. I mean, it's things as, big as prize money and just, pension plans, healthcare, what we're doing for all of these players. And then it's things as small as, it's just week in, week out. How many events? Where are all of these events? All of the fact that there's no uniform system, that it's really just at the will of what places can host a tournament at any given time, that the players don't, collectively come together, that an event like ATP Cup for some people can be a 19th event in the rankings points. And, there's nothing we can really do about it. You can debate whether that's fair or not fair, but if the players come together, those peers, as you mentioned, who week in, week out are serving as hitting partners for one another, are serving as doubles partners, sometimes coaches for one another, all of these different things, it makes sense that they would want to bargain as a collective. So I think my stance on that pretty clear. But yeah, I mean, again, it's so refreshing. I think in the era of social media in particular, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, Brayden, it does feel as though we have, because players are able to speak to a public forum more frequently, that these sorts of issues are brought to light and that we're progressing in the right sort of way.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I just think the most challenging thing moving forward with this whole players union and we are uniting, as there are lots and lots of players, I will tell you now, that have joined our union in the past 6 months, and we are slowly growing, and we have the majority of probably the top 150, the majority of the top 150 in both men and women's side of the game. So it's only a matter of time until we're heard, and the Grand Slams will have a choice to make. And whether they want to keep us happy or angry, that's up to them. So we'll let them decide.
Yeah, it will be something certainly fascinating. One of the many storylines that will emerge. Everyone just did their best of the decades for the 2010s tennis stuff. This will be one of the storylines, without a doubt, of the 2020s, and it's something I'm sure we will all monitor. But enough serious stuff. Time to have some fun with you. I promised some fun, so we will get there. And again, I won't take up too much of your time, but I have a rapid-fire series of questions. The topics will vary from question to question. I'll try and keep it topic-oriented, but does that sound good to you for the home stretch?
Let's do it.
All right, Westhoff, give me a rapid-fire sound effect, please. All right, so we had our College Contender Series, and now this is a little shameless plugging. We got to talk to the top 10 coaches from last year's year-end rankings, and throughout that, I ran them through some ideas I have for changes to college tennis. Now, you played at the highest level of college tennis. You know what works, what doesn't work. So I want to run some of them by you, and I have 3 definitive rule changes. Let's start with the big one, hooking. And I think we all can agree line calls are not the best in college. Certainly, it's one of the most unintentionally comedic aspects of the game. One could argue the most enjoyable is the tension that comes from those moments, but something we arguably want to get rid of for the benefit of the game. So my idea is, in lieu of dealing each hook as an individual thing, from now on, anytime a player gets overruled on any court, it applies as a point penalty to all of that player who hooks teammates. So not only does he get overruled and lose the point, but all of his fellow teammates get a point penalty as well. The reason I'm in favor of it, it raises the accountability of, teammates will say, dude, you screwed me. I was up a break and you gave the break right back to him, or, just vice versa. All of those sorts of things. Are you in favor or are you against that?
I'm totally in favor. I can't believe you thought of that. I would have never thought of that in 9 years. That's a good one.
That's what I do with my free time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would work, right? Because let's say, and I'm going to throw him out there because he's a friend of mine. Let's say Jack is just hooking nonstop at 5 singles for you guys. And you're just like, yeah, and you're just like, Jack, you got to stop. Like, this is enough. Don't you think the only way to get him to stop would be if, like, you, Ronnie, Kelly, Clark, were all like, dude, you're killing us?
Oh, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, like, everyone hooks in college tennis, and they know it, because if it happens across the net from you, you're going to do it right back to them. That's the only way to get back at them. And, you're probably only going to listen to your teammates because those are your friends. So whether they're doing it on purpose or not, definitely I'm in favor of that for sure.
All right, I appreciate it. You are not I want you to know that one has gotten probably the highest approval rating of all of the ideas. From here we go on, it gets weirder and weirder. All right, the coin toss. I think it's one of the stupidest things in college tennis. People should be competing from the moment they step out on the court. So in lieu of that, we have the 2 head coaches play out a drop and hit point, no winner on the first ball. Whoever wins that point gets to decide the serving arrangements on each of the courts.
I hate that because Coach Paul wouldn't win one.
What if Tripp gets to play?
Yeah, then I'm in favor.
So, like, one of the coaches could be the assistant or the head.
I mean, it's a funny idea, but I don't know. It's too far-fetched. It's too far away from what tennis actually is.
Yeah, that's true. The fans might really love it. My other idea was scrap the coin flip and let's make it competitive. Rock, paper, scissors. Because I just want the meeting where like Ty Tucker's like, guys, the Tar Heels throw paper 45% of the time. Like under no like we're throwing scissors. I think that'd be funny.
Oh, I mean that's a little better. Yeah. Either one. I'm against both of those, but those are good laugh.
All right, I appreciate it. Well, again, from here, it's going to get last two for you. Moving courts for the fans. The most annoying thing, if it's a section where it's 3 courts on one side, 3 on the other, is that 1 and 6 are the last 2 matches on, and you can't really see both. Would it be too annoying for the player to ask that they move courts to condense so that all the fans could be in one place at the end of a match?
Yeah, I think you keep the same court.
Just superstition and just rhythm.
Yeah, just kind of, it's too much, to take a break. I mean, sure, maybe if you're just starting a third set and you're in between sets, but I mean, with the way the direction tennis is going with 25 seconds in between points, and I don't even know how long the changeovers are now, but it just seems like it's getting faster and faster. It just would be uncomfortable to move courts, but I'm definitely in lieu of having fans just. I mean, in college tennis, I don't think it's as big of a problem as in the pros. But fans should just move freely and do what they want, like I'm not really, if people are moving outside of the court, I'm never the one to be like, stop moving,
Counterpoint, and I say this lovingly, I saw that YouTube video with you against Gosia. That could not have been enjoyable to play your sophomore year in what might be the rowdiest crowd in college tennis in Champaign.
Definitely one of the rowdiest crowds in college tennis, and that was no fun. I think I won that match, and I still believe I do. I won that match, but somehow I lost. And I don't think
get you in trouble.
I don't think I've seen a worse line call in my life. Is that 1-0 in the tiebreaker, and when I hit the drop volley, I mean that thing was like a meter inside the far sideline, and he calls it out, and I was mind blown.
Yeah, it was not great.
Yeah,
to say the least. And the idea for the hooking rule of empowering line judges, and I say this lovingly because they are the unsung heroes, but they make some poor calls. And like to put all of that power in the line judge to say, hey, not only do you get to overrule this court, but you get to give a point penalty to all 6 now. I mean, that's a lot.
I mean, it is a lot. And I've heard stories of, not going to say any names, what they're doing to their refs. So, these are just stories I hear, but I've heard of teams paying off the referees, and so that does put a lot of pressure or gives a lot of power to the umpires, which is, I mean, it's a tough one. That's why these rules they're hard to change.
No, that's a fair one. I agree with you. And again, it's part of what makes college tennis so fun is that the heightened tension just leads to the sort of adrenaline rush you want as a fan of any sport. All right, we'll move on, and then I know you've got to go, and you've been so kind with your time.
No worries.
Yeah, all right. Quick couple more college-related things, but this is more just in general. Getting back to that, who do you dislike playing more, at UVA or at Illinois?
At Illinois.
Yeah, as fun as that might be, I imagine it's a pain.
Yeah, it's one of those where I just, it's so unclassy, and it's just, I don't know, playing there is brutal. And I just, every time we played there, some of the players were hooking, and there was just always confrontation, and that was always the match that it got the dirtiest or ugliest.
Yeah, but it was also made for the best viewing experience as a fan. For
sure.
And again, I say that affectionately. All right, for you, I know you took the time to go to Athens, Georgia for NCAA final, I believe, in 2017. How, to watch your Tar Heels make the finals must have been a blast, but how painful was it for you to watch that final and not be able to play in it?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked, but at the same time, the decision I made to leave was, I had given it a lot of thought, and, I had done well that year. So did I have regrets and not want to be out or for sure I wanted to be out on the court, but did I have regrets in the decision? Because I could have very easily stayed one more year. I don't have any regrets, but yeah, I mean, it's tough, if I would have played, a lot of guys could have said we could have won, and I'm sure, we would have had a very good chance because they were close that day. But again, Virginia, I mean, they've been so good over the years when I was there. um, just to make the final was a really special day.
Yeah, but I will say this, because I love Ronnie, but let's say you're still there, probably go Schnur, Blumberg, Schneider. That's freaking insane. Like, the idea of that as a top three, and then Kelly, Murray, maybe Boyden, maybe Sondergaard, depending on the mood, that's nasty.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's filthy. Not going to lie, that's filthy. That's a pretty solid team.
I like that a lot. All right, ending Virginia's streak at ACC, last college-related one. On your tennis accomplishments, I'm sure making the New York Open final was a blast and probably has more, long-term implications for your career. But that win in the moment in Charlottesville, you end their ACC winning streak. You bring home the first national indoor title in program history. How juicy a moment is that for you?
Oh, it up until New York, it was the biggest. Proudest moment I have ever had on a tennis court. Yeah, without a doubt. It was so special. Obviously just because we had never beaten Virginia in the years that I was there, and we just, we conquered something that no one really believed we could do. No, at least no one on our team thought we could do. And to give, the guys that aren't playing pro now, or the guys moving forward, just a memory that they could cherish for the rest of their lives. And unite us all the time. That was really special. So definitely up until New York, that was my greatest memory on a tennis court. And
I got to sneak in.
Now it's my.
No, sorry. I wanted to sneak in one more about UNC for you. Should your team, and this year's lineup, I know you have two fellow Canadians there. You started the pipeline in Cernak and Seguin. This UNC lineup this year, Blumberg, Seguin, Rinke, Peck. Peck's playing 5, I think, Cernak, Kiger, Sondergaard. Your national title contender favorites?
I honestly couldn't tell you who's like what other teams look good. But I would say we are as strong this year as when we, made a national championship final, or when we won national indoors. I truly believe, Rinke is really, really good. He's Ronnie Schneider pretty much. I think he's Ronnie Schneider from Australia. He's a rock, and so wherever he plays, he's going to be a complete stud. So I think their top 3 are looking really good, and obviously down the line we got some guys that serve cannons, so that always helps.
Yeah, I'll say this: Rinke, maybe a 3-inch taller version of Ronnie.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, too soon. Is that too rude? Sorry.
Yeah, we gotta get Ronnie some high heels or something.
Well, no, he's the assistant at Indiana, so that he wouldn't stand in that lineup. And you look at the photo and you're like, "Where's Ronnie?" And he's in the back.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, my last question to you, I do want to ask, since it's Australian Open week, all of our listeners listening to this will have the Australian Open on the top of their minds. You got the chance to play qualifying there. You're aware of the conditions, the atmosphere, obviously all of the concerns with the wildfires going in Australia. Something, far more important than the tennis, but inevitably it does have an effect on the tennis. The surfaces, the ball, how it's all playing. Given what you know about all of that, who is your favorite to emerge with the men's singles title in Australia?
I think the winner of Milos, so Raonic, Djokovic wins.
All right. I forgot you were going to be biased and answer Milos.
Well,
I should have realized
that. I'm not biased. I haven't seen Milos look this good in probably 2 or 3 years. Like, just his physique, the way, like, his body looks, the way he's carrying himself right now. He's so confident. He's so fit. Obviously, he has, I think, maybe I'm a little biased when I say this, but I think he has the best serve in tennis when he's on. And he for sure is on. So I think the winner of that is going to come out on top.
Yeah. Did you notice people have been talking about the courts and the balls fluffing up? Will that be a factor at all? Because you mentioned it. Rayon, I don't think he's been broken yet this tournament, and if he has, it's once at the most. He has been just lights out.
I mean, he hasn't. I don't know about being broken, but he definitely hasn't lost a set, and I don't think so. And I haven't noticed anything with the balls, honestly. Everything with the smoke and all that. It was only really bad the couple days leading up to qualifying, and then the first 2 days of qualifying. After that, it was completely gone. And I say completely gone. Maybe there was a little bit there, but you couldn't feel it at all. it was mostly just the first 2 days of qualies and a couple practice days before. But since I've left, I'm not aware of the conditions, but I'd never noticed a difference with the balls or fluffing up or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, Milos, he hasn't lost a set. He knocked off Tsitsipas, Cilic, Garin, Giustino. I mean, really good wins for him throughout the way. His closest set, he's played 1-7-6 set against Tsitsipas in the third. Wow. The rest of the times, he's gotten the breaks. Yeah, upset alert for sure, and that will be really fun. I know you have a match tomorrow against Max Cressy, so I want to let you go. I'll sneak in one more. Anyone who's out in Newport Beach this weekend, anyone who gets the chance to see you play, what are you hoping they take away from the Brayden Schnur experience in 2020?
Just come out and have fun. At the end of the day, tennis is a sport that people should enjoy, and I'm in the entertainment business, so I just want to entertain people and have fun on the tennis court.
Yeah, well, thoroughly entertaining throughout the course of this interview. So, Brayden, thank you so much. Good luck to you against Cressy. If there's any physical ailments, that serve and volley match, no way it goes over 2 hours. So you have that at least to take solace in. But good luck to you throughout the rest of your season, and hopefully we get the chance to talk to you again soon.
Anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Take care.
All the best. Thanks. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with former UNC All-American and former ATP Top 100 player, and likely to get back there by my estimates during the 2020 season, Brayden Schnur. Always appreciate how candid, thoughtful Brayden is with all of his answers. There's no topic that's out of bounds for him. And, that's why we're so excited not only to see, him, but all of these young college players make the transition successfully onto the Pro Tour, because I really think just they're so well-rounded, that experience they have at a university, just the chance to mature before becoming a professional. You can see how beneficial it is to their games. Brayden, just going on at length about how he was able to learn how to become a professional during his time at UNC so that he was ready to go when he turned pro. So huge shout out to Brayden for taking the time to come back on the interview, and good luck to him as he participates this week in the Newport Beach Challenger. Look, again, we know right now all eyes in the tennis world focus in Australia, and if you've missed any of the coverage, we encourage you, go check out our website, crackedrackets.com. On the Mini Break Podcast, daily recap and preview pods to get you recapped from last night's action, previewed for this upcoming night's action each and every day of the tournament. Matt Stakoyak, Jamie McDonald, and myself. You can, again, find that on our website, on social media. It's the Mini Break Podcast. And, of course, if you're listening to that, rate, subscribe, review it on iTunes, as well as our Great Shot Podcast, where we just dove into the ITA Kickoff Weekend preview, and we'll have a recap of that weekend's action later on during this week. Of course, on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You guys know the deal by now. It's at Cracked Rackets. If there's any other of the guests we've had on in the past that you would like to hear an update from now, please just let us know. We're always open to those sorts of ideas. And again, rate, subscribe, review, follow, share with your friends. As soon as you do it, I will stop asking. So please, 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 let's see that. Just go leave a little review on there for me. It's quite easy, I promise. So with that in mind, got to give a shout out, as always, to our super producers, Max Fligner, Daniel Westoff, who have an editing job to do when you've got to keep 3 podcasts going throughout a Grand Slam tournament. We don't want to leave you hanging on the college coverage. We don't want to leave you hanging on the interview front, and we don't want to leave you hanging on the mini break front. So shout out to those guys and all the hard work they do. But for our wonderful guests tonight, Brayden Schnur, for our super producers, Max Fligner, Daniel Westoff, and for all of us here at both Cracked Rackets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. We hope you enjoyed this home stretch of the Australian Open, and we will see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.